The Rules Committee will come to order. We're here for consideration of the appropriations bill for the Departments of Commerce and Justice, Science, and related agencies. And we're very happy to welcome the distinguished chair and ranking member of the subcommittee. And before I call on our witnesses, I'd like to recognize the artist of all of the paintings that are behind me and to your right, my left, David Ashwell, who is a good friend of mine from California, and he painted this from what was then a studio for him. This is a piece of property that is owned by now, sadly, the late Dick Clark, who, just as you all know, passed away a couple of weeks ago, and it's a place where I was pleased to hang out. And over the weekend it was torn down, but before that, David painted that and wanted me to have the opportunity to have it hang here in the Capitol. And I have to say that this painting has done more to calm my nerves during Rules Committee meetings than any development that has taken place here. And in fact, I hearken back to the first hearing that we had that went for something like 60 hours or some crazy thing like that on the health care issue. And I got a splitting headache while I was sitting here. And all I did, I was very happy that someone on our side was speaking, so I was able to legitimately turn my head to the left, and I transported myself right there, and all of a sudden my headache immediately went away. And so Dr. David Ashwell provided me with the prescription necessary. And I should add, because many people ask about this, and that is these two paintings over my shoulder. You all know that the ratio for the Rules Committee is 9-4. It's been that way under both Democrats and Republicans. And I was talking with Mr. Ashwell about the fact that the Senate is a body where one person can block something, but the House of Representatives is obviously a majoritarian body, and nowhere is that exemplified more than in the House Rules Committee. And so what we have here is 9/13 of the Capitol Dome and 4/13 of the Capitol Dome, and that's the work of Mr. Ashwell. And in closing, I should add that one of the things that has brought us together is that he picked up a paintbrush when he was 54 years old, so it's been 6 months ago that he took up painting. So in the last several years, he decided that he wanted to do something that was charitable. And he found that the Save the Children organization, which does $500 million of feeding and clothing children around the world, is an entity that has 96 cents or 94 to 96 cents of every dollar actually go to feed and clothe children around the world. And so he came up with this concept, painting a portrait of himself when he was a child. He decided that he wanted to get 100 people and do a book called Yesterday's Children of people who were known. And so they're a litany of people. We've gotten Condoleezza Rice, Madeleine Albright, Misha Saakashvili, the president of Georgia, and Nancy Pelosi has one in here. And so over the last couple of years he's been working on this. And this is all going to be a tremendous exhibit, all being done for this benefit. And so David is here with his wonderful wife, Debbie, and I'd like all of you to recognize and appreciate their great work. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you. Thank you very much, David. It's great to have you. That is in Malibu, and it's, believe it or not, looking due east. People find that hard to believe. In the second column, you're looking right at. It's a little hazy. It's not smog. I guarantee it's not smog. It's a little hazy. That's downtown Los Angeles, because if you think about California, it's described Malibu as the Amalfi Coast of Italy, and so everybody assumes if you're in California, you're looking west when you look at the water, but that's literally looking east, and that's looking at what's known as the Palos Verdes Peninsula, that piece of land right down there, and the piece of land off to the right is Catalina Island, which many people have heard of. And the homes right over there on the other side are the Malibu colony, where lots of famous movie stars live. At the top of that road right there, Cher, the former wife of our late colleague Sonny Bono, lives there, and lots of other people that you may have heard of. And they allow me to hang out there, so I give a little political balance to some of my friends in Malibu, just a little bit. So, gentlemen, thank you both very much for being here, and without objection, any prepared statement that you have will appear in the record in its entirety, and this is the first of our appropriations bills. As you know, we've stated it very, very clearly. We want to have an open amendment process, which is something that John Boehner and I and others have talked about for the while, and we are determined to have an open process, and that's what I hope this committee will report out for consideration of your measure. Obviously, we've got lots of challenges, many things that need to get done, and we're trying to encourage responsibility on both sides of the aisle, from both Democrats and Republicans, so that we can continue to have an open process as we proceed with this. And so with that, congratulations on your work product, and I guess I should say to you, Frank Wolf and I came to Congress together, so this will be the last time that I will, I'm sure he for many more years to come will be before the Rules Committee, but it'll be the last time that I'll be presiding over the Rules Committee when he brings his bill to the committee. So I will say it's been a fun and interesting nearly 3.5 decades that I've been privileged to serve with you, Frank, and look forward to this great accomplishment of yours that you have coming.
Too, everyone knows we had 54 in our class. We were called the Reagan Robots, and I think we did a lot of good things. With your leaving, we're down to 3: Congressman Rogers, Congressman Chris Smith, and myself. And had it not been for Ronald Reagan, I would not have been elected. I lost in '76 and lost in '78, and you lost.
Third time was a charge. I ran in '78 as well, and so I feel very, very sanguine about leaving this place, knowing that you'll be here, though, Frank. So,
thank you, David. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to bring the FY 2013 Commerce, Justice, Science Appropriation Bill before the Rules Committee. We have had great assistance from the ranking member, Mr. Fattah, in crafting the bill, and I appreciate his support. And it's been good support. One time when I was in a minority, I was not treated very well. And so we've always made it careful that everything we do, and so Mr. Fattah has been
only one time when you were in the minority? You weren't
it was one time, yeah, on this committee, yes. And so we made sure that that will never happen. The recommendations include $51.1 billion in discretionary spending. The level corresponds with the House budget resolution and is 3.1% below FY12 and 1.4% below the President's request. We've had many difficult choices and focused limited resources on programs that are most critical to the nation: fighting crime and terrorism, boosting U.S. competitiveness, and science. Department of Commerce, the recommendation includes $7.7 billion, including critical investments in manufacturing and funding above the request in the National Weather Service. We've seen the hurricanes and tornadoes and that, and also the satellite program. For Justice, the recommendation includes $27.1 billion, increased funding for the FBI to continue the important counterterrorism programs and to beef up the cyber programs, corresponding with what we did on the floor before the House took the break. Funding for state and local justice grants program is reduced, but high priority programs are continued, including Burn Justice Assistance Grants, state criminal alien assistance programs, which California has always been very interested in, violence against women grants, and programs for missing and exploited children. Science, it increases are for basic scientific research and scientific education. National Science Foundation increase of $299 million will set the groundwork for the development of new technologies and help create jobs in America. NASA, the bill includes $17.6 billion, restores funding for aeronautics research and science programs, while providing an increase above the aggregate request to keep the development schedule for the heavy lift rocket and the Orion crew vehicle, the nation's next generation. That's a summary of the bill. Mr. Chairman, a letter submitted by the full committee chairman requests a rule that provides for the orderly consideration of the bill. It requests an open rule, providing the necessary waivers. And with that, I appreciate your help.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Fattah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And let me first state that I wish you well as you move on.
Well, I'm going to be here for another 8 months, so
I know you are, but I want to thank you for our friendship over the years. You were, when I first got here in 1994, I was elected, and there was a little change in leadership, and you were in the majority. You worked with me. You were one of the original co-sponsors on my Gear Up legislation, which has now helped millions of young people. We've invested over $4 billion in this effort and sending so many of them on to college in California, Texas, Virginia, and all 49 states that were originally participant, and now we have Alaska and others who are participating in the territory. So I want to thank you. This bill, I joined with the chairman. This is a bill that came out of subcommittee with a unanimous vote. It came out of full committee on a voice vote. It is a bipartisan product, and Chairman Wolf has led a process in which we've been involved at every step along the way. Obviously, we could make some different choices on some of the items, but in the main, this is a bill that promotes American innovation and global leadership in science and investments in the National Science Foundation and NIST and the efforts of NASA and support of manufacturing is very substantial. I think we've handled all of the Justice Department accounts with the exception of the state and local grants in ways that are responsible. The Senate has a bill that has $731 million more in an allocation. There will be a conference. The bill will undoubtedly change, but this is part of the process, and I'm here with my chairman to ask for an open rule and look forward to the House consideration of this bill, and I thank
you very much,
and the
Mr.
ranking member for your consideration.
And congratulations to you on your legislative success going back to 1994, and it was and has been a privilege to work with you. Let me just say that this is the beginning of the process, and we thank you for coming together. We're dealing with a new day when it comes to the appropriations process, as we found out last year in this, and that is without earmarks, without the kinds of tools that we've had in the past. And as I said, our commitment is to have an open process when it comes to appropriations. We all know what happened in the last Congress. Democrats and Republicans alike were less than happy about what happened, and we are striving to do this. But obviously, it's going to take the work of the Appropriations Committee, I believe, and I've been encouraging. I was just in a leadership meeting in which we were discussing the fact that we want the leaders of the subcommittees and the full committee to ensure management of this on the House floor so that we don't have to take action here in the Rules Committee. And so I would say to both of you that working with members on your respective sides is going to be critical to ensuring that we'll be able to continue to do more and more of these bills under the open amendment process that we want. And so striking unanimous consent agreements to make sure that people can have an opportunity to be heard. We know that when it comes to appropriations, we're going to be voting into the night, and we've worked very hard to try and have people complete their work by 7 p.m., but we know that as this process begins, we're already planning to vote into the evening with series of votes at 6 o'clock and then after 9 o'clock in the evening. But I just want to say that we all want this process to continue, Democrats and Republicans alike, but it can only be done if there is, in fact, cooperation in the management. And we want you, not this committee, not our leadership team, to make these decisions. We want the appropriations subcommittee chairs and ranking members to be able to put together the kind of conclusion to get their work product done. And so I hope very much that you will be able to do that. And anything we can do to help encourage that, we obviously we want to. And I've spent time, of course, talking to our friend Harold Rogers, the chairman of the committee, and I know Norm Dix very much wants to do this. And so I am hoping very much that we can make it happen. So you all are the not the guinea pig, but you're the first one out of the chute when it comes to all of the appropriations bills, and we're counting on you to set a great model for the other subcommittee chairs and ranking members. So I've got no questions other than congratulations. Mr. Sessions.
Chairman, thank you very much, and a delight to see both of you here starting off this appropriations process. I note for both of you, I don't know if it's for comment or just for my own, but as I review the bill summary, I note Department of Commerce, an increase of $96 million or 1.3% above 2012. I note, as I go through the bill, Patent and Trade Office, which is equal to the level that was requested. National Institute of Standards and Technology, which is important for economic growth, $79 million above 2012. National Oceanic Administration, NOAA, $68 million above the fiscal year of 2012. $93 million below the President's request. Census Bureau, $10 million below 2012. Drug Enforcement Administration, known as DEA, an increase of $50 million over 2012. Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, ATF, $1 million above fiscal year 2012, same as request. U.S. Marshals, an increase $67 million above 2012. And yet you found a way, and these are perhaps priorities of my mind. Oh, by the way, National Science Foundation, NSF, $299 million above fiscal year 2012. And I see that you've done all this with a priority basis, and yet you come in 2012 appropriations $52.7 billion, now $51.1. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of prioritization. It's a lot of finding out what's in the best interest, not just of the taxpayer, but of wise management as we move forward. I'm proud of what you've done, Mr. Chairman, and I want to be supportive of it, but I recognize that it wasn't just a prima facie case of just giving everybody what they'd had the year before. Chairman Dreyer so aptly noted that we're in a process that is not a free fall. It is a constructive management decision that we are making to do away, not have earmarks, and yet to cut money. And this is the kind of work that I believe I came up here to do. This is the kind of work I believe many of my colleagues, in particular the last 3 or 4 people on this dais, came up here to do. And it's obvious you were up to the task. I'm very proud of that and want to be supportive. Thank you very much. I yield back my time.
Well, I thank you both for your work, and I know that it's difficult to try to make everything, make everybody happy when you have to make some cutbacks. But I don't want to belabor the point. I guess the one of the things that is that concerns me is that programs like community-oriented policing services, or the COPS program, has been cut, and it's been, and quite frankly, since the change in leadership, it's been cut by 84%. I just, and I understand that the Senate has a different number and there'll be a conference, but, you know, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that that program has helped a lot of my communities that are facing some incredibly difficult challenges, and tight. We have tight local budgets and state budgets, and you know, I know money's tight to go around, but that's a program that I hope at some point can maybe be resuscitated in this process, because it is really important to the communities I represent in Massachusetts. But you know, I appreciate all the work that you guys have done on this, and I look forward to having it on the floor tomorrow. And hopefully we'll have a vote on an open rule with no extraneous things that tie to the rule that we're going to vote on, but just an open rule. That'd be great to be able to support a rule like that. Thank you.
Ms. Fox.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just want to thank these two for their good work on this. And as you said, it's a beginning of the process, and it's always a little tough, I guess, to go out there in the beginning of the process. But we thank you for your work and look forward to the debate on the bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hastings.
Mr. Chairman and Ranking Member, I associate myself with the kind remarks of everyone up to this point, and thanking both of you. I have but one question, and that is whether, in your opinions, the two of you think that this measure is in compliance with the Budget Control Act. Or does it break the deal? Is
No,
a
it
better
does
way
not.
of putting it.
Well, no, it is in compliance with the Ryan budget. The numbers are clear. There have some programs that we have had to cut, but we've made sure that in the sciences and in the programs that if America falls behind, this budget makes sure that the 21st century, if we continue, will be the American century, not the Chinese century. And that's been a driving point. We have, so it is in compliance with the Ryan budget. That's the numbers that we were given, and that's how we have to operate out of.
Our ranking member, Mr. Dix, made comments in the full committee that represent the fact that we have made a commitment to spend at a certain level. The Ryan budget and all of the bills, all of the appropriation bills that you will see are falling below that number. The White House has said that they're not going to sign bills that don't function at that level, but we're at the beginning of a process. The Senate has already acted on this CJS bill out of committee. It has $750 million more in it. It is at the agreed to number. There will be, before there's a law, there will be a House bill, a Senate bill, and as Majority Leader Cantor says, it will go through this process, and there will be a bill that's signed into law. It will look different than the one we're moving today. There are items in here that we would like to see, I would like to see additional dollars invested in. But overall, given the number we're at to work at, this is a bill that I can support going to the floor. And we've supported out of subcommittee and out of full committee to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
My understanding that there's now a statement of administrative policy that without objection I'd like to submit to the record, Mr. Chair. And it does also state that the President and Senior Advisors recommend a veto of the legislation, and he also expresses concern about some of the policy outside of the dollar differences, some of the policy restrictions around the detainees and the final placement of where the detainees are placed from Guantanamo. Again, I'd like to ask kind of what the procedure is moving forward. If we have a statement of administrative policy where it's a likely veto, how do we get this to a point where we prevent a government shutdown over a bill that if it passed and it passed the Senate, the President would veto? So what kind of process do we have in motion to prevent funding from running out for critical criminal justice services?
Would the gentleman yield?
I'll be happy to yield.
I thank my friend for yielding. And let me just, I know we had this discussion a week or two ago about the issue of statement of administration policy packages that come forward. And the fact that I haven't seen the SAP on this, but the fact that some staff members may recommend to the President that he veto legislation does not necessarily mean that the President is going to veto the legislation. I, in my years here, have concluded that only when a statement of administration policy says the following: the President will veto, does that mean that the veto is imminent and going to happen. So I know that this is done often to try and encourage a conference that will take into consideration the administration's positions. And as Mr. Fatah said, the Senate has a measure that is, what, $781 million above this, and this will have to be reconciled between the House and the Senate. So I thank my friend for yielding.
Yeah, and the language the President uses in the SAPs are similar in that it says, the President's senior advisors will recommend a veto. That is what we have seen in statements of administrative policies, and this President and most Presidents receive relatively few bills that they actually have to veto, because usually they are very straightforward about their intentions, and in this case, an intention has been expressed to veto it. So, I mean, I take it at its word. I think if this bill, if the Senate took up this bill, passed the House version, I think the President would veto it. That's certainly what the SAP indicates. Obviously, none of us can read his mind. Again, we're operating here. We want to get to an outcome that I think both parties want to prevent. Prevent the defunding of the FBI, prevent the defunding of our critical criminal justice systems. So there's a lot at stake. And again, I just wanted to ask the chair what the kind of path is forward to actually get to something that the President signs.
Well, go ahead. You can go now.
Mr. Chairman, I'm convinced that we will arrive at a bill that the President will sign. Okay. But there are necessary steps to that process, and part of that is the House has to move a bill. And this bill, I think in 90% of the instances are probably 90% of the decisions that have been made, probably something that the administration can support. There are items like legal services, like the COPS program, like some of the riders that have been attached that will be issues. But they're not issues we can resolve in this room. The only thing that we could do is move a bill forward, as the Senate is doing. We will get to a conference, and there will be people there representing the House, people there representing the Senate. Will arrive at an agreement that we will have some expectation, in all likelihood, that the White House would support.
And I would doubt very much that this bill would be vetoed at the end.
Okay, I'll yield back.
both very much for being here.
Thanks, Dave.
We greatly appreciate your hard work and look forward to an interesting debate on the House floor on these very important public policy questions. That will conclude the hearing for consideration of H.R. 5236, and we will distribute this rule, and the chair will be in receipt of a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move the committee grant H.R. 5326, the Commerce, Justice, Science, and Related Agencies Appropriation Act 2013, an open rule. The rule provides one hour of general debate equal, divided, and controlled by the chair and ranking minority member of the Committee on Appropriations. Rule waives all points for or against consideration of the bill. Rule waives all points for or against provisions in the bill for failure to comply with Clause 2 of Rule 21. The rule provides that the bill shall be considered for amendment under the 5-minute rule. The rule authorizes the chair to accord priority and recognition to members who have pre-printed their amendments in the congressional record. The rule provides one motion recommit with or without instruction. Section 2 of the rule provides that until the adoption of a conference report on the budget resolution, the allocations of spending authorization printed in tables 11 and 12 of the Budget Committee report accompanying the House-passed budget resolution shall be considered to be the allocations under Section 302A of the Congressional Budget Act of 1974. Finally, Section 3 of the rule waives the requirement of Clause 6A of Rule 13, requiring a two-thirds vote to consider a rule on the same day it is reported from the Rules Committee against any resolution reported on May 10, 2012, provided for consideration or disposition of any measure reported by the Committee on the Budget related to Section 201 of the House Concurrent Resolution 112.
You've heard the motion of the gentleman. Let me just explain the rule. As has been made very clear, this is a bill that calls for an open amendment process. It does have two other items. First, a minor technical correction dealing with the issue of enforcement. Obviously, as we look at the challenges that we're facing budget-wise, ensuring that we have the structure in place that will enforce the budget is what the goal was with the process that we've had. And all of the measures that have come forward on reconciliation have been available since last week. They've been online since last week. As everyone knows, the Budget Committee, or you may not know, the Budget Committee today reported out the Sequester Prevention Reconciliation Act, which is designed to take these measures that have been out there with a couple of minor tweaks and put them into place. We are awaiting the minority views of Mr. Van Hollen, the ranking member. And obviously we hope to get those today. If we get them today, we'll be able to proceed and consider this on Thursday on the House floor, this other measure on the House floor, the sequester prevention measure. And but if we don't get those views, even though, again, all of the work, with the exception of minor tweaks, has been available since last week online for everyone to see. And we want to get this completed by Thursday because we have much appropriations work that needs to get done in the coming weeks. And next week we're scheduled to do what is always the massive Department of Defense authorization bill. And so with these measures that are before us, we have a provision that provides for very, very narrow same-day consideration of this measure if and only if the minority views are not filed until the last minute. So that explains what the rule consists of. Again, it calls for an open amendment process for the Commerce, Justice, State, Science Appropriations Bill, excuse me. And are there any amendments?
Yeah,
Mr. McGovern.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, before I offer my amendments, I just want to say, it's been 304 days since the last open rule in the House. And it has been a long time coming, and we had hoped that we were returning to an open process here. But the two items that you kind of dismiss as not being very important that were added on to this rule are important. There are two provisions that we view as entirely partisan and unacceptable. You include martial law for an unrelated bill, reconciliation, and then you've reiterated the Ryan budget because of an error in your last attempt to pass it. So reluctantly, we're going to oppose the rule, but I have a couple of amendments.
Surely, please proceed.
The first amendment is to move to strike Section 3 of the rule, the martial law authority for considering the reconciliation bill the same day the rule sends it to the floor.
You've heard the motion of the gentleman. I'm happy, I don't think I need to explain again. We are awaiting the minority views that could come in today. The measures have been available that are in this bill since last week online, and the idea of delaying the submission of the minority views is, to me, something that would, well, let me just put it in a positive. If we have the minority views, none of this will be necessary. There will be no requirement whatsoever that we have same-day consideration. So if the minority views are submitted today, we'll be able to proceed, and so this whole issue will be moot. The only reason that we would do this is if we don't get the minority views until after midnight on Wednesday.
Well, Mr. Chair, correct me if I'm wrong, but the rules of this House guarantee members of a committee 3 days to file minority views.
And
So that
let me
people
say,
can
the
read
gentleman is
bill,
absolutely right.
So that people can read the bill before deciding how to respond to
Right.
with their own views here. So you're saying that is.
Well, let me just say again, if I might.
You're saying it's somehow an abuse of Mr. Van Hollen of the Budget.
No, I didn't.
Democrats
I never used the term abuse.
Well,
I don't think.
martial law-
But I say, let me just, if I might reclaim my time, I will say the following. First, this is unusual in that all these items have been available for almost a week. They were made available last week. I don't know exactly what day last week, but they've been out there for, so over a week now. I mean, a week ago today, they were made available. So that's 7 days that they've been made available. Obviously, the House was not in session last week, and so it took until today for the Budget Committee to report this out. The gentleman is absolutely right. Mr. Van Hollen is fully within his rights. There's no abuse whatsoever that leads to this. But we know that there has been 7 days so far, and if those minority views are submitted not today, but tomorrow, we will be able to continue with a 3-day layover requirement, no need for same-day consideration at all. So all we're saying is that, I mean, there are reports out there that there may be some attempt to wait until after midnight on Wednesday to do this. And I don't know that those reports are correct, but, you know, that's what people have indicated. And so, of course, Mr. Van Hollen is fully within his rights. I'm not saying that he's not, but in light of the fact that will have been 8 or 9 days.
The bill was reported out today.
Yes, but it was made available a week ago today online. And I don't know if my friend knows, we were not in session last week. And by virtue of not being in session last week, but still having the bill made available online a week ago today, it seems to me that since members had to be here for the Budget Committee to report out this reconciliation measure, we now have a situation where obviously minority views could have been put together. They could have been filed immediately following the completion of this markup. And I still hope that they will. I hope Mr. Van Hollen will file the minority views so that we don't need to use this very, very narrow tool allowing for same-day consideration of the measure on Thursday. So I obviously encourage a no vote on the amendment. Vote occurs on the McGovern amendment. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Pinch chair, the noes have it. The noes have it. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Sessions? No. Mr. Sessions, no. Ms. Fox? No. Ms. Fox, no. Mr. Bishop? Mr. Bishop, no. Mr. Woodall? Mr. Nugent? No. Mr. Nugent, no. Mr. Scott? No. Mr. Scott, no. Mr. Webster? No. Mr. Webster, no. Ms. Slaughter? Mr. McGovern?
Aye.
Mr. McGovern, aye. Mr. Hastings? Aye. Mr. Hastings, aye. Mr. Polis? Aye. Mr. Polis, aye. Mr. Chairman?
No.
Mr. Chairman, no.
Mr. Clerk, the total?
3 yeas, 7 nays.
Any members not agree? Are there further amendments? If not, the vote occurs on the motion of the gentleman from the Big D. Those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, no. Aye. Sure, the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The motion. Clerk, call the roll.
Mr. Sessions?
Aye.
Mr. Sessions, aye. Ms. Fox? Aye. Ms. Fox, aye. Mr. Bishop? Mr. Bishop, aye. Mr. Woodall? Mr. Nugent? Mr. Nugent, aye. Mr. Scott? Mr. Scott, aye. Mr. Webster? Mr. Webster, aye. Ms. Slaughter? Mr. McGovern?
No.
Mr. McGovern, no. Mr. Hastings? Mr. Hastings, no. Mr. Polis? Mr. Polis, no. Mr. Chairman?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
Clerk, the total?
7 yeas, 3 nays.
And the amendment, the motion is agreed to, and this will be managed by Mr. Woodall,
And Mr.
gentleman from
Hastings.
Georgia, and Mr. Hastings. Let me just say that we're anticipating our next meeting to be on Wednesday, and we will, I hope, have the minority views available so that we won't need to utilize this same-day authority on Thursday to have things completed, so that we'll be able to have both the Budget Committee and the Rules Committee complete its work. Mr. Hastings, when will this rule be on the floor? Tomorrow at noon, I guess, first thing up tomorrow. Okay, without objection, the committee stands adjourned. Thank you all very much.